Arriba!
Skip on down!
Todos ustedes arismense a la pared.
They're against the wall already!
Donde es? Ah, you're so damn smart, you read it.
Hollywood is reeling as Paul Newman's longtime friend breaks decades of silence with a shocking confession. Newman's magnetic, one-of-a-kind personality fueled whispers that never truly faded. For years, his closest circles stayed quiet. But 13 years after Paul's passing, Robert Redford has finally stepped forward, ready to reveal long-guarded secrets. What hidden truths still haunt Newman's legacy? And is Robert about to betray his late friend? Join us as we unravel what the 89-year-old Hollywood star finally has to say concerning the rumors about Paul Newman. The perfect Hollywood star. Paul Newman was the man every audience wanted to see. With those piercing blue eyes and that natural charisma, he seemed to glide through Hollywood with an ease only a few could match. In his prime years, Paul stood at the very center of stardom, pulling off all kinds of roles, combining rugged masculinity with emotional depth. Whether he was the rebellious outlaw in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or the defiant anti-hero in Cool Hand Luke, he made audiences believe in him every time he stepped on screen. However, it wasn't his lifelong dream to become an actor. Paul had other plans. First was his father's plan to make him take over the family business, which Paul had no interest in. He wanted to be a pilot instead. So when World War II broke out, he quickly enlisted in the Navy. Unfortunately, it was during his interview that he found out he was colorblind, and that immediately disqualified him for the pilot position. Instead, he served as a radioman and gunner.
Nothing to me.
How about the others? What did they say?
They say what they want.
Perhaps it is during his Navy days that Paul learns discipline and strategy, because when he returns from war and decides to go into the theater business, he doesn't rush into it like most actors of his time. He went to learn drama at Yale, equipping himself with the formal knowledge. So while it took lots of minor roles and auditions before most people got their big break, it didn't take so long for Paul. Soon enough, he was doing well in his career, and Paul had become a household name. To the public eye, his life looked golden. He was married to one of Hollywood's most admired actresses, Joanne Woodward, and together they created the picture of a loyal, lasting marriage in an industry built on scandal. His family seemed perfect, and his career unstoppable. Then, when he began to do charitable work, his aura heightened, and his image was reinforced as a man who had it all and gave it all back. Paul, in short, seemed too good to be real. He was the man other men wanted to be, and the man women adored. He was cool without trying, humble without effort. And when someone looks that perfect, the world can't help but wonder, what's hiding underneath?
Post office, what the hell was it?
It was something Strasser.
Yeah, I know, and a man named Albert.
The first crack in the wall. Unlike many of his Hollywood peers, Paul didn't spill his private life into gossip columns. Instead, he avoided scandals and stayed loyal to his family. For all his charm, Paul carried an air of mystery, and in that silence, rumors found room to grow. The longest-lasting rumor that a few dared to write about outrightly in his lifetime is that Paul might have been homosexual, or at least in a secret relationship with his closest friend and business partner, A.E. Hotchner.
And you ask that lady what she thinks of life. Ask her what she thinks life is worth to those Indians in San Carlos when they run out of meat.
Two men were so inseparable that people began to think his marriage to Joanne was just a beard marriage. Hotchner was a writer and philanthropist who built businesses with Paul, and the duo spent much of their free time together. In the rigid world of that era, when masculinity meant toughness and distance, Paul seemed different. On screen, his characters displayed a sensitivity and vulnerability that was rare in male stars of the era. He was strong, yes, but he was also thoughtful and playful, and this diverse range of emotions made him a target for whispers. Reporters and industry insiders speculated, why was Paul so intensely private? Why did he shun Hollywood parties and instead spend lone nights with Hotchner? Why did he seem almost uncomfortable discussing the more traditional trappings of celebrity masculinity, like affairs or bragging about women? None of this was evidence, of course, but in a world hungry for secrets, it was enough to spark gossip. The fact that Paul and Hotchner's friendship lasted a lifetime only continually fueled the speculation. It's important to note that Paul never publicly addressed these rumors. He built his life on keeping the spotlight on his work, not his private affairs. But the gossip followed him, hinted at in magazines, and revived time and again, even after his death. To many, these whispers made him even more intriguing. After all, perfection can be alienating, but mystery? Mystery keeps people talking. And how long before the noise starts to affect Paul?
I mean, the Congress, what about tonight? You're giving your speech.
Well, this is more important. I'm going to speak to the Swedish Defense Department.
The triumph despite the shadows. If the gossip was meant to distract Paul, then they failed spectacularly. Because in the same era that speculation about his personal life circulated through Hollywood, Paul reached some of the most significant peaks of his career with achievements that can only be described as legendary. In 1961, he gave audiences The Hustler, a gritty portrayal of Fast Eddie Felson that earned him an Academy Award nomination and proved he could carry complex, morally ambiguous roles. Just 2 years later came HUD, another critical triumph that brought him yet another nomination. By 1967, Paul had become more than a movie star. His performance in Cool Hand Luke created one of cinema's most enduring anti-heroes, a role that earned him yet another Oscar nod and gave the world the unforgettable line, "What we've got here is failure to communicate." And while most actors would have been content with such a streak, Paul continued to push and search for more.
Right now, you and me, head down to bar.
Fine. Let's have a drink first. Got some ginger ale in the fridge.
In 1969, he teamed up with Robert Redford for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That film not only became a box office sensation, but also cemented one of Hollywood's most beloved screen duos. It wasn't only his acting. Especially when Paul made a bold move to direct Rachel, he wanted to prove that he didn't have to be in front of the camera to do a great job. And he was right. That film earned awards and nominations that solidified him not just as an actor, but as a true storyteller. Now that wasn't all, because for decades, Paul had been nominated and overlooked several times for the Academy Award. Even though he was already a respected actor with Oscars to his name, Paul wanted that one award that seemed to be far from reach. So when Martin Scorsese cast him for The Color of Money, he didn't hesitate. And in 1986, that same film won him the Academy Award. Off the screen, Paul was just as unstoppable. His love of racing had grown from a hobby into a second profession. Competing in prestigious events like the 24 Hours of Le Mans and various championships, Paul defied expectations of what an actor could do. This wasn't about publicity stunts or midlife crises. It was about raw talent. Fellow racers respected him, not as a celebrity dabbling in their sport, but as a competitor who could hold his own against seasoned professionals. And then came his greatest and most surprising success: food. In 1982, Paul and his close friend A.E. Hotchner launched Newman's Own, a small salad dressing venture that would eventually become a global brand. But what made it so unique was Paul's decision to donate all profits to charity. Over the years, Newman's Own gave away hundreds of millions of dollars to causes ranging from education to healthcare. While rumors came and went, Paul only advanced, defining his life with awards and legacies that lived forever. But although the people loved him, gossip was easier to believe. With Paul keeping quiet about the accusations, a question began to linger. What if he truly is as the gossips claim?
Harry, you're a cop. How do you know who to trust?
You don't. Not if you're a cop.
A friend's testament. Robert Redford's collaboration with Paul on the 1969 movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was the beginning of a friendship that would last well over 50 years. So if it came to those who saw Paul for who he truly was, Robert was one of the few. Their connection on screen was so electric, but off screen, that's where they really connected.
Like hell we will. No, it'll be okay. If the water's deep enough, we don't get squished to death. They'll never follow us. How do you know?
Redford has always been careful with his words, but when he speaks about Paul, there's no hesitation, only warmth and truth. So when he accepted to attend an interview with Essence so as to finally reveal the truth about everything they had said about Paul, people were surprised and wondered what Robert was going to say. However, what Robert says in the interview leaves everyone shocked. He described Paul as a man of impeccable integrity. In Robert's own words, "There is a depth to Paul that most people didn't see. He was loyal, he was generous, and he was as funny as anyone I've ever known." The difference between rumor and reality could not be more stark. Robert painted a picture of a man who gave everything to the people he trusted. He described their friendship as effortless, a kind of unspoken understanding that didn't need words. This testimony matters because Robert wasn't a distant colleague. He was Paul's partner in art and in life. The two men frequently played practical jokes on each other and built a brotherhood that endured until Paul's passing in 2008. "Our friendship was never about the industry," Robert explained. "It was about two people who trusted each other."
Woodcock. The Woodcock, you all right? Hey.
And liked each other, simple as that. When we listen to Robert, the rumors feel weightless. Anonymous whispers begin to crumble in the face of lived experience. If there were secrets to be told, surely Robert, who had shared Paul's closest moments, would know them. Robert's words are a reminder that Paul's legacy is not in the stories that circled him, but in the relationships he treated with love. And yet, for all the emotion Robert poured into his memories, one truth still lingered in the background. The rumors never fully went away. Even as Paul stacked up awards and philanthropic milestones, the whispers persisted. The question was never just about what Paul did, but about who he was. But what happens when rumors collapse under the weight of simple, undeniable facts? The irrefutable evidence. For all the speculation and gossip campaigns, Paul's life left behind a paper trail of interviews, movie shoots, business records, and even hospital visits. When you hold the allegations against the complex reality of time and place, the story people tried to spin about him begins to look fabricated and absurd. Take the most poisonous rumor, which was claims of infidelity and secret scandals during periods when Paul was, quite literally, accounted for every single day. In one infamous example,
He can't arrest you here. It's a foreign country. He can't take you back either.
He's not going to take anybody back. He wants to finish us here.
accusers pointed to a supposed tryst in the late 1970s. Yet at that very time, Paul was on set for Slapshot, with cast and crew recalling his long hours and his evenings spent phoning Joanne Woodward, who was at home with their children. His schedule was regimented and documented, so to believe the accusation, one would have to ignore dozens of eyewitnesses and call sheets that prove otherwise. Another accusation was made regarding questionable behavior in the 1980s, but Paul was recovering from health issues, doing chemotherapy sessions with a rigorously documented timeline. How could a man drained from treatment and under constant medical supervision be living a secret life of scandal at the same time? The contradiction doesn't just strain belief, it obliterates it. Even his business dealings rendered the claims useless. Records show Paul was neck-deep in building Newman's Own. During the years, some accused him of being absent or distracted. He was negotiating contracts, visiting farms, and personally taste-testing recipes. In summary, Robert was too busy being a responsible man to have the time to do any of the things he was accused of. In the end, a timeline does not lie. A man cannot be in two places at once. And when you lay the allegations side by side with the undeniable facts of Paul Newman's life, they don't just crumble, they vanish. What kind of cynicism does it take to attack even a man's charity? The ultimate insult. By the time Paul passed away in 2008, the rumors had been thoroughly discredited. His marriage to Joanne Woodward lasted for half a century, and his reputation as a gentleman and actor had only deepened. Yet, even in his death, another rumor surfaced, and this time it's even darker. Some critics claimed that Paul's philanthropy itself, that is, his decision to donate all profits from Newman's Own to charity, wasn't an act of generosity at all, but a clever tax dodge or a PR stunt. The suggestion was terribly sickening that a man who had given hundreds of millions of dollars to sick children and to struggling families had done it not out of compassion, but as a cover. Imagine the gall it takes to look at a child benefiting from hole-in-the-wall gang camp, one of Paul's most cherished creations for children with serious illnesses, and dismiss it as a scheme. How hardened must a heart be to hear that a man had funded cancer research, arts programs, and food security efforts, and insist it was all an elaborate trick. For Paul's defenders, this was the final insult. It was one thing to question a Hollywood star's fidelity or habits. It was another to try to taint the very good he left behind. Even Joanne Woodward, in rare interviews, hinted at her disgust with those who didn't know when to stop. But the charge never stuck, not with the countless families whose lives were touched, nor with the organizations that counted Paul as their benefactor. Still, it revealed the bottomless ends that people could go when they make a star their target. So what truly defines a man? The gossip or the good he leaves behind? In the end, Paul's legacy cannot be measured by rumor. It lives on in the more than $600 million donated to charity through Newman's Own, with every penny of profit still flowing to causes that heal and uplift. It lives in the children who laughed at hole-in-the-wall gang camp and in families who found food on their table. Most of all, it lives in the unshakable truth that when the lies fade, good endures. Paul Newman's life was not flawless, but the ledger is overwhelming. Why did Robert Redford wait so long before defending his friend's legacy? Do you think any of the rumors could be true? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video show